Have you ever wanted to make a pirate shirt but didn't know how? Well, today I am going to show you how I made a really simple 18th century pirate shirt. It's a very easy project with squares and rectangles, and it's super simple to make based on your own measurements. So let's get started and I'll show you how I did it. So I used a tutorial from Ora Lin on her, she has a video tutorial on her YouTube channel that I used to make the measurements and then figure out how big I wanted the shirt. Here I am thread pulling and fighting with Nightmare because he wants to lay on top of the fabric that I have. And then he decides that he wants to try and be a cute little kitty here and lay on the floor and stretch out and yawn at me. He is adorable though. So here you can see I'm trying to thread pull the linen, and you just basically pull on one thread all the way through until you get it all the way to the end. However, linen threads break very easily, as you can see here. I just broke one, so that it makes it a little bit challenging. But thread pulling makes it so that it's all on grain, and it's easier once you pull that thread for you to see where you cut the line. And you'll see that here in the next clip, that you can really see real well where you're going to cut along so that it's all on grain. Okay, so you can see this is a little bit better. You can see this line right here that you cut along. So here in this clip, I am dyeing my fabric. I followed a tutorial from Fantastic Follies, and I used a fiber-reactive dye that works well on linen from Dharma Trading Company. And I dyed this fabric. It's kind of a teal blue color. It takes a little bit of time though to dye, so for reference, I would go and check out her video because she does have a really extensive video on fabric dyeing. So here in this clip, I went ahead and thread pulled a little bit more on this side just to make sure that it was all even, because it was kind of jagged and it was not even because I don't think I cut this part or thread pulled this part before I dyed it. So I just went ahead and did that here, and I made it all nice and straight and on grain. So here you can see my camera is kind of freaking out. I'm not really sure why it was having such a hard time focusing. Here you can see I already cut the slit for the neck and for the neck, the V-neck here. So I went ahead and ironed these pieces down before hand sewing them, and in the next part you'll see I went ahead and hand sewed them down so that they, with like just a small rolled hem, and then reinforced the bottom of the V with a buttonhole stitch. So here you can see I am slip stitching that V-neck part down, and then I reinforced the bottom, like I said, that bottom of that V with a buttonhole stitch. In this clip, I am stitching the shoulder gusset into place. So here you can see after I went ahead and stitched those on, I am folding down the raw edges and ironing them so that they stay in place, and then I will go back and stitch this down over the top, just as you see me here pressing it in place so that I can go and stitch it down so that all the raw edges will be hidden underneath a seam. So here you can see I am machine stitching that down into place so that all those raw edges will be hidden for the neck gusset. So in this clip, I am ironing the collar piece after having sewn the piece together so that it will make a collar. And I'm pressing it so that it's nice and flat. And here I'm showing how I clipped the corner on this one, and you can see the difference between that one and the other one. I'm going to show you here that I did not clip the corner on yet. So now I'm going to go in and clip that corner so that you can see the difference. I mean, you can clearly see the difference. It's a much crisper corner when you clip it. And then here I have clipped it, and you will be able to see that it looks much better and much more professional when you do that. So clipping your corners is really important. So here in this clip, you can see that I have gathered down the collar of the shirt to fit into the collar piece that I was just ironing, and then sewing it into place so that it fits properly. So here I am over at the ironing board pressing my collar in place and pressing under the seam allowance so that I can fold over the collar seam allowance as well to make sure that the raw edges are all encased. Pressing is such a important part of sewing that it's probably about half of what you're doing when you're sewing. So it's really, really important that you make sure that you press after each seam. I don't always press after each seam. If I'm batch sewing something, then I'll press after a few seams, but it is very important that you press. It definitely makes a huge difference in making your garments look more professionally made and less like they're homemade. So in this clip, you can see that I'm slip stitching down the collar where I just ironed to encase all those raw edges. In this clip, I am stitching together the cuffs for the sleeves. In this clip, I am putting in a gathering stitch for around the bottom of the sleeve so that I can gather it into the sleeve cuff that I just stitched together. And here you can see that I am gathering that sleeve cuff down so that the sleeve part so that it fits into the sleeve cuff. So here you can see I am stitching the cuff onto the end of the sleeve that I have just gathered, and I do that with the machine, and I make sure that I am catching all of the gathers into the sleeve so that it makes a nice puffy sleeve. So in this clip you can see that I am slip stitching down that cuff just the same way I did with the collar, where you fold over all of the raw edges and encase all the raw edges and then slip stitch it down so that it has a nice finished look. So one of the disadvantages about working with like a polyester or nylon thread is that sometimes it becomes knotted if you have too long of a piece. Like you can see here, I just got a little knot in my thread and I have to take it out. It's kind of a pain in the butt, but I have found that when I use like a cotton thread, that doesn't generally happen. I've never worked with like a linen thread or a silk thread, so I don't know if that happens with that, but let me know in the comments what your experiences are with different types of threads and hand sewing. So in this clip, I am sewing the sleeve into the arm's eye. I have already attached the gusset at this point, and I'm guessing I didn't get any footage of that, but I actually ended up having to go take the sleeve out and reset the sleeve and the gusset later on, and I don't know if I got any footage of that either. So here I am just doing the same thing to the other side, and then after you set the arm into the arm's eye, you go ahead and stitch down the entire side seam, which I found to be kind of weird because I would have rather done the side seam first and then put the arm into the arm's eye, but that was how she wanted you to do it. So here I'm closing up the side seam on both sides so that I can then try the shirt on and see how it fits. And this is me sewing up the other side seam. After this, like I said, I went ahead and tried the shirt on and realized that it was entirely too big, so I had to make some modifications after that. So in this clip, you can see that I'm sewing in new gussets because the gussets were too small before, so I made them just slightly larger. And then I also went in and took out some of the volume in the shirt because it was just entirely too large on me, as far as like width-wise on the shirt. It was just really, really large. I made it very like short. I didn't make it super short, but I made it short, so I can't really tuck it into something. So I had to take that volume out because it was just too much and it was very unflattering. So here you can see that Nightmare has come up asking for pets and snuggles, and he didn't really want snuggles at this point, but he did want pets, and so I gave him some pets, and we hung out for a little bit, and you can see I was giving him some kisses. He's such a handsome boy. So after I made all the modifications to the pattern, I went ahead and reset the sleeves back into the arm's eye and closed up the side seams. And then the next step is going to be putting buttons onto the cuffs, and then I will see you guys at the reveal. Okay, let's talk about my final thoughts on this project. Overall, I thought this project was really easy. I think that her instructions are really easy and super simple to follow. You can do this as your first project if that's something that you're looking into doing, is making something. You can also make it by hand. You can completely hand sew the entire project, just doing like a running back stitch on all the seams, on all the side seams. It's a very simple project to do. Now, as far as my shirt is concerned specifically, I think that I rushed to get the back I rushed with the seam here, or the gathering here, and you can see that on this side it's not nearly as gathered as this side. And while normally I wouldn't really care about how that looks, it fits me weird, and I'm not really sure if that is the reason why. So I'm probably going to end up going in and redoing the collar. So I have to take all of this out, take it off, regather it, and see if I can more evenly gather it and get it to sit right, and then try it on and see if that works. If that does not work, then I'm not really sure what the problem is at this point. It's just pulling in a weird way, and I think it's pulling like back, and even on the mannequin you can see that it's like it doesn't sit right on her. So I definitely need to make some modifications to it before I can actually wear it. But overall, it's a very easy project. She has very easy instructions to follow, and like I said, you can do it all by hand if you want to be a little bit more historically accurate. I just really don't care so much about that. I just wanted to make it and see how it came out. So for that, I think it turned out pretty well. It's just that I need to fix some of the fitting issues that I'm having with the neck and how it's sitting, and figure out what's going on with that. So, all right, well, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. You can leave me comments below and let me know what you thought and what you want to see next. And then also like and subscribe if you enjoyed my content, and I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you for watching.